probably have to use this for the rest of your life. Okay, so I used it for years. One of the side effects is osteoporosis. Now, what a trade-off that is. What a trade-off. And so, did anybody ever say, try stopping wheat and dairy? No. You know? I can make a difference. People say, well, I get these sinus headaches. Try stopping wheat and dairy.
They're getting better at it.
Yeah. You read it a lot now. You read it a lot now. So we're trained to believe we're going to age. We are programmed to age. You say, okay, well, I'm certain by the time you hit 40, you'll probably start needing reading glasses. And I am 75 years old. I don't need reading glasses.
That's terrific.
I don't need reading glasses.
Wow, that's really great.
Now, one thing, there's a glyph for the eyes. And if people use it, fine. If you don't use it, don't use it. It healed my ex-husband of glaucoma and cataracts. And there's also drops you can get for your eyes on Amazon. Look up, and they're about $11. I think they even got some cheaper depending on where you get them from the retailer through Amazon. And just look up Dr. Christopher's Herbal Eye Drops, or Dr. Christopher's Eye Bright Remedy.
Yeah, they've got that. They're real great.
Right.
Yeah.
And what happens, you start using that, you put one drop, you get a little eye cup, you put some clear water, and you put one drop in there. And you start with that because they will burn. They have cayenne pepper. One of the problems with your eyes is the lack of movement of energy. And with the Glyphs, which is number 34 for the eyes, if you put one, not just one on the eyes, but back here, when I did that for my ex-husband, and when I put it on for me, I could feel the energy moving up and down alongside either side of my spine. It's a lack of movement of energy. And then the eye drops, what that did, I found one of the, I won't call it side effects, is sometimes you'd wake up, there'd be a lot of junk in your eyes, like you'd think you had an infection. What that's literally doing is clearing the toxic matter out of the lens, because it is that gunk inside the lens that's going to cause the cataracts.
What's his name?
Dr. Christopher was an herbalist up in Canada many years ago.
Google herbal legacy and then you'll find them.
And they sell them on Amazon. And I've had many people say after they use them for just a week or two, they say, oh, wow, this is really, really great.
Herbal what?
Legacy.
They're just Dr. Christopher's and eye bright, or herbal eye drops.
And you need to dilute it before you give it to somebody?
Absolutely. It's a concentrate. You put one drop in a little eye cup, or a bottle of water with an eyedropper, and then it'll burn a little bit. And then as you get used to it, you do 3 times a day. Then you work your way up to 2 drops. Then you work your way up to 3 as soon as you tolerate the burning feeling.
Okay, well, I'm thinking about my mom has this problem with the discharge from her eyes.
Your pardon?
My mom has a problem with the discharge from her eyes. She's 97, and I would need to dilute it before I got it close to her. I mean, dilute it way down, just like.
Yeah, and if she's not even willing to use an eye cup, you could try eye drops.
Yeah, what happened?
And they said put them in a cup of tea too. The cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper is a powerful stuff. A quarter teaspoon of cayenne pepper in a little glass of water every morning is good for you. It's pretty tough to take, but it is good for you. Get that circulation going. You need to keep your circulation going.
Okay.
But that's one of the reasons too. You need to exercise. Yes.
The question came up for me years ago about eye infections. And I talked to Dr. Joe Esposito about that, and he recommended using the cayenne in just distilled water.
Yeah, right.
Instead of...
In the eyes.
Well, it was diluted.
Yeah, well,
Instead of the prednisone that the eye doctors.
oh, I wouldn't be, prednisone is serious business. You know, when people say they're giving it to their pet, you know, it's okay on a temporary measure, but you give your pet prednisone on and on indefinitely, and it will do a certain amount of damage. It will relieve the symptoms. But is this what we want to do, is relieve the symptoms? And that is what so much medicine is, it relieves the symptoms. What's that?
I keep this in my purse, cayenne tincture, and I heard that if someone's having a heart attack or
Yes.
stroke and you put it in under their tongue, you'll save their life.
Yeah, now, I used to have a heart problem, and I would get some serious chest pains, and it was really scary, and I even called someone, because I had dogs, and I thought, if I had to go to the hospital, you've got your dogs home alone, you know, you need something done about your dogs. So, then I wrote the glyph, in the second book, I wrote that glyph for my own heart problem, and I had mitral valve prolapse as well. And as soon as I started using it, the pains quit, and they never came back, but I was told to keep using it for several months, which I did. And then a doctor in Vermont called me, and he said, could you add something to your heart glyph? And I said, well, tell me what it is. He said, can you add a statement to correct the timing of the heartbeat? And I said, well, tell me exactly what you want it to say. So he gave me a sentence. I went back and I added that to the heart glyph. Now I can do that, even though those books that you've got, as I make changes, they affect all the books. Any change affects all the books. So there was one woman, she was taking care of her 89-year-old father, and they wanted to put a pacemaker in him, which is insane, 89 years old. But she went ahead and she put the heart and the lung glyph on his heart chakra. And 2 weeks later, he had a checkup, and the doctor said he did not need a pacemaker anymore.
What do you do for nosebleeds? I just got a nosebleed.
Swallow it. Good protein.
Oh, God.
I'm trying.
That's interesting.
Have you got allergies or something where you're,
You want some ice,
No, I'm
Barbara?
good.
Does that happen often?
It started to, yeah.
No, I mean, has this happened before?
Yeah, it happened a few times before, and I don't know what it's about. It'll just
These vitamin
spontaneous.
And Rutin.
Yeah, those wouldn't hurt if you get them, if you really get them seriously. And not often I recommend going to a doctor, but in that case, I had them years ago real bad, and I went in and they cauterized it, and I never had another problem. It was not a pleasant procedure because they give you a shot in the nose, but it stopped. If you get them regularly,
I mean, I just started the last couple of weeks, and this is ridiculous.
do you have any allergies?
No,
Are you dehydrated?
probably.
Okay, you can fix that.
Yeah.
Oh, but I wanted to say something else. I like cayenne pepper because I've had some heart issues too. And so one day I checked out all the hot sauces at the grocery store, and Frank's red hot sauce is made with primarily cayenne pepper is the main ingredient. And so if you like hot sauce, try Frank's for the cayenne.
It doesn't hurt to carry a couple capsules of cayenne pepper. They can stop a heart attack. Cayenne pepper can stop a heart attack. But I'll tell you what can stop a heart attack, and that's using the heart glyph before you need it. There's some of the glyphs are powerful prevention ones, and the one for the heart and the circulatory system can literally clear the plaque out of the arteries. Now, I've had two friends who have gone into heart surgery, and I said, and they got the manual, and I said, did you ever use the heart glyph? No. Well, these glyphs can work as for prevention as well as they can for healing something after the fact. That's why I tell the women, use the glyphs for malignancy, and take the glyph for malignancy and the one for lymphatic system, and put them inside your bra as a prevention. And that will help heal the what am I thinking about? The lymphatic nodes that we get in our breasts, women, they get, pardon?
The cysts.
Lymph nodes when they get, in the
Cysts,
breast.
tumors.
Cysts, yes, a cyst, yeah. And, that will help for that, and it also could be a prevention. It could be a the man can put the glyph for, malignancy on the sacral chakra. Prostate cancer is getting so common in men. So common. And put it on the sacral chakra.
For the record, that's caused by a hardening.
Yes.
The easiest and probably simplest way to take care of that is pumpkin seed oil.
Good idea.
Seeds are right.
Yeah. Pumpkin seeds are very, very
Well, you
good.
can buy the pumpkin seed oil at the health food store in capsules.
How much?
Yeah.
It'll be,
Well,
whatever it
just
is,
depends how many you
it's
get.
cheaper at Amazon.
How many
No, no,
capsules?
no, no, how much would you recommend of the oil? Like,
Well, it depends on what
Tablespoon
your
or-
oil.
How
program
bad
You
is
is.
douse?
How
You
bad is your
douse?
prostate?
And
Well,
did
this
you-
is for my brother.
I'm
It
teasing.
depends on,
well, can you douse? You douse?
I usually don't, no.
No.
It would
it also
depend on
depends on
sources.
what your oil program is.
Uh-huh.
For example, you need to have fish oil to reduce inflammation anyway, and for omega-3s, and for EFAs and
Right.
DHA.
Right.
DHA. Anyway, it'll depend on what the person's already doing
Right,
and what you're gonna add.
right.
So,
Yeah,
It
do
takes
more
a
than
little-
one thing, you know, I know a lot about the glyphs, there's a whole lot of other things out
Yeah.
there, and they all work together, and just like I said about the herbal eye drops. Do both, you know, you just, whatever it takes. One woman wrote she had healed herself of macular degeneration just by eating kale every day. Whatever, you know.
I wanted to talk about teeth for a bit, like rebuilding enamel, rebuilding the teeth, damaged teeth, that sort of thing. I know about the cod liver oil and the butter oil combination. I know about mineral powders and colloidal minerals, and all of that's been known to do that. But on an energetic level, or any other level, do you have any input on that?
You gotta remember, everything comes from the inside out. You need to be eating a good diet. A lot of people say, well, have you a glyph to heal teeth? Can they heal the enamel? Can they heal a cavity? And I have a glyph in the third book that will help. But if you're not eating a good diet, and the same thing with joint repair. You say, what can I do? My knees are bothering me, And if you're eating a diet that is breaking down the cartilage and bones of your body, a glyph may give you some relief from the pain, but if you're just stabbing at symptoms, you're just treating symptoms. You've got to go at the cause. The cause is both emotional and it is also dietary. And you need to get, like someone said, okay, what have you got for endometriosis? And the glyphs are not, silver bullets to heal something that is caused by a poor diet and a lack of exercise. And that's what endometriosis is, poor diet and a lack of exercise, as well as emotional issues, anger. Okay?
Okay.
Emotional issues at the basis of almost all illness. Emotional issues, and that's why the emotional glyphs are so powerful. And they take layer after layer. People say, what is my mission? Why am I here? Okay? You gotta get off the layers of the onion to find out who's in there. Who's in there? What is your mission? Why do you want to be around for 150, 200 years? I know I have a job to do. Do you know you have a job to do? Do you know what it is? If you are taking off the layers, in whatever way you're doing it, it's like all of a sudden you wake up to realize why you're here. And no one can really tell you but you can go to a psychic and they can tell you something, and when I first started with the glyphs, and I talked to the women who created the first glyph that got me started with it, and she told me and I just kind of put that thought on a shelf because it didn't make sense at the time. But as you remove all this stuff, and that's the physical as well as the emotional. If you take, in the first book, there's a glyph for detoxification, and you take 4 of those, and you take the one for parasites, and you put it, and this time, I think taping it right to the body is an outstanding idea. You put it on the right side for the liver, and if you're even slightly sensitive to energy, what it does, it transitions the toxic matter to light, and eventually it will even resolve gallbladder problems. I was myself faced with I had this little twingy, little gallbladder. I thought, is that my gallbladder? You know, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden it hit me really hard. You know, I thought, I've got a problem here. I've got and I am not letting any doctor cut me open. I am not going to do that. So I took 4 of the glyphs for the gallbladder, 4 for detoxification, 2 from book number 2. I took, just for good measure, I took 4 for the bacteria because I thought, well, your gallbladder can get infected. And I took 4 of the malignancy just to throw it in for good measure. So I had all 4 of these and I put them on. By the next morning, the pain was about 80% improved. Within a week, it was like 95. Within another week, it was gone. And I have no doubt I saved myself from the knife. And
That was, okay, that was gallbladder, detox, and malignancy. Was there 4 things?
I took the detox and the 4th was the bacteria. I mean, if you get a lot of pain on you, you can get an infection in your gallbladder. So I thought, well, let's throw that in there too.
And you left it on 24/7?
I just had it on at night,
Okay.
I think. I might have left it on all day when at first. I probably did, and because it was pretty scary. It was really scary. And when I felt better the next day, I just kept on. One of the things, the mistakes people make, just like if you were taking pills and they say take it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or what, then you need to do that. Oftentimes people will use a glyph and the pain goes away and then they quit. And one lady, she said she healed her glaucoma with the glyphs. And then it came back. She said, but I have to admit I've been, not following my diet. I've gained a lot of weight and blah, 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 blah. And so, see, if you don't take care of yourself, taking care of yourself. And it's another reason is you want to get rid of all the emotional baggage, because then you will love yourself enough that you want to take care of yourself. Sometimes people are literally act like they're on a death wish. They don't want to quit smoking. They want to give up, all the things that they shouldn't be eating. It doesn't mean you can't have any fun when you eat. And always bless your food. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm a religious fanatic of any kind. But when you bless that food, it literally changes the molecular structure. I'm sure most of you have heard of Dr. Amato. Is there anybody who has not heard of the Japanese doctor, Dr. Amato, who would
Yeah, we know.
Changes water.
Right, who could literally, who proved that just talking to water could change it. And that's how it works. You bless that food and that will change the molecular structure of your food. And your pet's food as well. When you feed your dog or cat, go ahead and bless that food as well. And I have a little routine I go through. I say, I bless this, I consecrate it, I intend it for the highest good, I transmute anything toxic into light. You have the power with your thought to just transmute anything toxic into light. Intended for the best use of my body. Okay, any other questions?
It's not a question. You reminded me earlier this evening, and I thought I would say it. Sometimes I just receive guidance.
Mm-hmm.
The angels will have me eat a bunch of stuff, and I don't have any idea why. I just do it. Like today, I was supposed to have some carbohydrate, and it was a lot, so I did. normally I wouldn't eat that much because, I know what my basic diet should be.
Right.
And, so I did, and so I feel pretty good right now.
Uh-huh. Well, we have the actual instinct. The thing is, we ruined it because we have so much out there. If we were all transported to a island out in the ocean, and we had to go ahead and take fruit from the trees and dig up roots and whatever in order to survive, we wouldn't stop and think, well, how much protein are we getting? Is there enough carbohydrates? Is there any vitamin A in this? And I read in this book, all those books you have in nutrition, they're coming from the 1%. There's a whole lot of stuff. All this idea that your body cannot create vitamin B12, your body is power of God. Of course it can. If you believe it can. If you are programmed to believe it can't, then it can't, because your body will believe what you believe. You are the orchestra conductor, and your body is the orchestra, and it will play any tune that you tell it to, or that you have let somebody train it to. And we have been trained to believe those things that are not in our best interest. So we have to make a conscious effort to retrain it and be conscious about everything, like about the food that you eat, of being grateful. And somebody said, oh, well, the plants, they you have to hurt them too when you eat. Well, I said, well, a squash doesn't really want to lay out in the field and rot. That's just, I'm sorry, but I don't buy that one. Any other questions? Anything we didn't cover?
Oh, well, I would like to add one last thing there. I had been asking for guidance on all kinds of things for years, so I do get it.
Yeah, right.
So
Now, what I did,
I just follow it.
let me-
Those guys pop in and show me, hey,
right, well, let me tell you, with me, I was meditating one day many years ago, and I saw this blackboard with some writing on it, and I felt like that was telling me to try to do some guided writing. So I went out on the deck and I just tried to empty my mind, and you know how easy that is. First page I just got a bunch of gibberish. The second page I started getting something that made sense, and I realized some nature spirits were trying to explain something. And that started me working with it, and I kept on, where at first I would just talk to my guides, and then I got where I talked to, whoever one time I was in the kitchen and I thought, well, I wonder if God will talk to me, whoever God is. And I got very clearly, well, of course I'll talk to you. And so I got my notebook and I got one page of a very simple but a very profound reading. And that began my relationship with, when I was working with the Glyphs, I would be told what to put on, what to put, and oftentimes I would be given a picture of it.
Jean, do you have one of those books that you can show, one of your books with you? Some
I
people
bought
may
one
not
here.
know what you're talking about.
Right, oh, in case there's somebody here who doesn't know what a glyph is. This was the first book. This is now in its second printing, and it has a different cover. And that was the very first book that came out in 2008. Unlocking the Power of Glyphs. And this first one, I originally started doing this just to heal myself. I was very interested and fascinated with the idea of these glyphs, and I'd look it up on the internet, and I didn't find anything really very helpful there. And then someone sent me an email that had a glyph on it, and it looked like a picture of a centipede. And it said that this glyph would remove parasites from the body that hold fear inside of us, and that we've had this since Babylonia and Atlantis. And that really struck me, really powerful. So I printed it out and I cut it out, and it's about 2 inches high, and it said use with integrity. I put it on my solar plexus, and I felt a tremendous commotion going on in my liver. And so I just thought, wow, whatever it is, after a little while, it quit, settled down. And I asked my guides, I said, whoever could give a drawing on a piece of paper that much power, I can do that, we can all do that. And every one of you, you could create your own glyphs. You could even put them on a piece of cloth. Whatever you want to put them on, a t-shirt. And so that got me started, and I made one of my first glyphs. I had a friend who had a bad infection in her foot and didn't want to take antibiotics. And so I wrote a couple of glyphs to heal bacteria and to speed the healing. And she put it on, and within the next day it was already starting to heal. And so that's got me started. And one of the first glyphs that I created was to remove fear. And that is probably one of the most important ones for everybody. You don't realize that you're holding fear of something in your life. And I put it on my solar plexus, and I felt like a little vacuum cleaner was pulling stuff out of me. Yes?
Okay, so I've never heard about your glyphs, but I know what an astrology glyph looks like. So is it a prayer that you're putting into a picture? Or?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. What I would do is, I asked my guides, I said, okay, how do I do this? And they said, well, you take and do a drawing. This one for fear is a little thunderbolt. And I did, and so when I created it, they said, do the drawing, then have a programming statement, what you want the drawing to do. Then you have a ceremony. And I thought, okay, I was a Catholic, I know about ceremonies, candle, prayer, okay, I can do that. And so that's how I would create the glyphs. And as time went by, I would have, the ceremonies became more yes, here. As time went by, the ceremonies became more meaningful, and when I would call in, what I do now, I had a chapel constructed. I have a powerful vortex on my land, and I had a chapel constructed there, and I would have a ceremony, and I would take a CD from Tom Kenyon, where he calls in all the sacred beings, and I have him call in all the sacred beings, and then when I tell them, when I read the empowerment statement, I would like you to join in and send your power and energy into this glyph. And anytime you call on any of them, whether it's Jesus, Buddha, Saint Germain, Mary, and you ask for something, you're there to help you with any energy, they will, if it is for the highest good. Okay? It has to be for the highest good. It has to be love. If you're doing something selfish, you're on your own. And I found that if I want to kill the yellow jackets and the wasps, I was on my own. They said they would not cooperate with killing. They didn't mind the bacteria and the viruses, but when we got up to the insects, they just wouldn't. So I'm going to have to work on some for just repelling. If we can just repel. My feeling is we need to get the chemicals off the earth. Amen. And so I'm trying to think of ways where we can not just control the insects from the garden and so forth, but also it would be nice if we could find a way to stop invasive plants that can be done without chemicals. And the thing is, they are conscious as well. They are conscious as well. If we can somehow communicate with the plants, because there's a lot of plants that are causing a lot of problems in waterways and things. Yes?
What do you have to say about the genetically modified? I mean, the seeds are genetically modified that they're planted.
I was instructed to create a glyph that will, first you can take it's a page of the glyph and you put it over the plat of the land, and it will pull the energy out of any plant that is not there for the highest good of the animals and the people of the earth. Then it will purify the land and send positive energies into the people there. And I had mixed feelings when I was given that, because these crops belong to somebody. This is their livelihood. And so I had you know, I just felt like, you know, I'm getting into an area, I'm not sure that I'm doing the right thing, but that was what I was told. Let go of what this program has been said to you. Stop seeing yourself as, if you're a man, that your testosterone level will go up. That's a choice. Stop seeing it. See yourself as young and stay with that. And for the women, it's kind of hard to do, because if you say, oh yes, I'm gonna think of I'm gonna be 21 again, and then you go by the mirror and you think, oh gosh, look at all the wrinkles in my face. As soon as you do that, remember the movie, any of you, Somewhere in Time, with Christopher Reeves?
Oh, I love it.
And he went back in time, and then he pulled a coin out of his pocket. That was a new coin, and he went back, and it was just kind of where you, as soon as you look in the mirror and think, oh, as soon as you think you're getting old, you are. Okay? You have to retrain to think you're youthing, you're getting younger. And then you have to treat yourself younger. You have to believe that. You can't just sit there like a lump in front of the TV and eat popcorn and potato chips and think, yes, I'm getting young again. You know, that's the, you have to, you're not going to convince the cells of your body that way. Okay? All right?
You mentioned Tom Kenyon. It's a different subject, but did you get the latest newsletter, or the one
Yes.
4 weeks ago? Wasn't it powerful, that meditation in there?
Yeah, I saw that, but I have not gotten the
Oh,
chance to
wow.
use it. Oh, okay.
I used it the other day because I really needed something desperately. And I thought, what in the world is going on with me? And what is this? And of course, there's so much new energy coming in and everything.
Right.
And it has to spread out through your cells and your DNA. And I think mine was crap. I really do. Anyway, what can I do? I was all day long. I was just in a mess. I felt nervous and the whole thing. Anyway, I thought, somehow or other it came to me to do that. So I went to the computer and I pulled up Kenyon's, meditation. It's kind of a musical. It's a voice. Well, you know what it is. Anyway, and about 3 minutes into that, everything just settled down and all the energy dispersed.
I've got to do that. I
I
get
mean,
his
just-
things and I think, oh yeah, I'll listen to that, and then,
Well, I don't always, but somehow or other I got the message to do that, and it just settled everything down.
I have at the house something called a Baytar.
Oh, yeah.
Are you familiar with the Baytar?
Oh, sure, I've risen the Baytar.
Okay, you were the grand one when,
So if anybody
when
wants
what's his
that
name was alive,
meditation-
Peter Kelly was alive,
Yeah.
huh?
If anybody wants that meditation, if they will send me their email.
Or just look up Tom Kenyon on the internet. And also, it's worth buying some of his CDs, really. I've got a couple of them, and I think when he gets that on the CD. Well, anyway, the Baytar is like looks like a big massage table. And for the chakra points, it has speakers. And it has two players there for CDs. And it will play whatever music you want it to play. One will play the music, whatever you choose, and the other one, he has subliminal sounds for it. Not subliminal, but different sounds for healing. And it'd be good with Tom Kenyon's stuff there.
Tom Kenyon stuff is really good.
It's good. The Tom Kenyon stuff is good.
I started getting the newsletter, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, a long time ago. And I thought, well, maybe. So I decided to do one of his meditations. Apparently his stuff is good for me. Whatever. I almost left my body in that meditation when I was at work. And I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right. Now there's one in January of 2015, he did one on reprogramming your innate, and that was a real important, powerful one, because you need to reprogram your innate, where your innate is kind of like your super intelligence of the body. It's all throughout your body. It's in your DNA. And you have to literally talk to it and say, look, this was a program we were under before, this dying and reincarnating, and we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to do that anymore. January of 2015, if you look him up and get his report, that's worth reading.
Well, look up the
Oh,
one that came out in
yeah.
July. I think
Right,
it was
that's good
July
too.
18th or something
All
like
these
that.
are good, but those are some
Real
of
heavily weighted.
Right, I got that one, I'm gonna go back into it.
It's really good.
Okay. You got it, so, and.
But I was such a skeptic with the Kenyon, you know, when I started getting those newsletters, but that's
Right,
probably a lesson.
Okay, all right, well,
Well, wait a minute, we're gonna send a, what newsletter?
Tom Kenyon's.
From what date, July what?
18th.
In July, so
Some
this
month.
year you can get it. Well, she decided it was time, so she said now.
Oh, why? Well, then nobody has any more questions, I think I covered everything here. Is there something I missed that you want
Does
me to
anybody
cover?
have anything they'd like to say? Or ask Jean?
How many of you in this room were born and raised on a farm?
Not even remotely.
Not even remotely.
I've been on one.
You know, she talked about food. I was born and raised on a farm. I started milking cows when I was 5 years old. I made the mistake of going down to the farm, going down
You got a job.
and I milked them damn old cows until the night I went in the Navy. On November the 1st of 1951, my dad sold every damn cow. But I milked them the night before he sold it.
But he didn't milk those by hand.
But what do you think about drinking milk?
You know, I did get not to eat meat, but I was never told anything about not drinking milk. And so my feeling is on milk and eggs is if they agree with you, first of all, if you're gonna drink milk, find a source of raw milk. If cow's milk agrees with you, I get raw goat's milk, and I make my own keeper. And to me, I love it. And if your eggs agree with you, but if you can get eggs, fertile eggs from a farm, that's the best kind to get. Fertile eggs are alive. The other eggs are not.
I drink a gallon of milk every 5 days, just as regular as clockwork. And I've done that for 65, 70 years. I'll drink milk when there's other stuff to drink, but I'll drink a big glass.
Or you get that stuff from the grocery store. You get.
That don't make no difference. I drink deal milk and I drink milk.
He puts milk over fruit. If I chop up peaches, he puts milk over it. And eats
When
it.
I used to use
Or
cream, I
strawberries.
used to put cream over it.
Or strawberries. He
Well,
used to put milk.
now, this is establishment, so take it for what it's worth, but I took a nutrition and disease class years ago, back in '92. And what they said was, for cow's milk, that, you have to have a special something or other. It's been, 20 years, so I don't remember what it was,
Enzymes.
that we don't have in our body to digest cow's milk. They said it's better to drink goat's milk, but not cow's milk. And that's why they test every baby that's born, and that's why a lot of them have to go on formula, is because they're lactose intolerant. And a lot of people can tolerate milk, but a lot of people
I think
can't.
a lot of times it depends upon your culture that you came from. You
Yeah.
know what
There's
the-
certain people
Right.
cannot drink milk.
I understand black people have a problem with it. Really?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, if you're coming from a culture that was raised on, I think it makes a difference. There's certain people, but goat's milk is more tolerable, much more tolerable.
Yeah, I looked all into that, and culture's part of it, but basically, it depends on your particular metabolism and your body chemistry, well, in Africa, though, there's not just one kind of metabolism. They may all have dark skin, but they're actually very different in terms of what they ate.
Right.
The Maasai, for example, live off nothing but cow milk, blood, and meat. So they do fine with milk. But I went many years without drinking milk, as I was almost a vegan. But when I got back onto it, and as long as I had raw organic milk, I was fine. But you put me on the regular stuff, it's bad.
Right.
And there's different grades of milk,
Absolutely.
and then also you can culture it, and that's going to make a big difference.
There's a total difference between raw milk and
Yeah, and so a lot of people, they think they're lactose intolerant when really they're drinking pasteurized and ultra pasteurized milk, which has no enzymes left in it whatsoever.
Right.
But you could get the raw milk here in town, and I get it and make kefir out of it.
Yeah.
Where do you get that?
The truck comes around town, different places, and
Oh yeah,
every week.
Yeah.
So I have an abdominal
Candida.
hernia,
Uh-huh.
okay, and it's getting bigger from just being and I don't want surgery, period. What glyph, I mean, it's bulging now,
I would use one glyph with the one for the esophagus.
the esophagus, but this is an abdominal hernia.
Right, the esophagus, and the one for the abdominal is the one for candida. Intestinal support. The candida one is intestinal support. And intend, just say, you know, tell your glyph what you want it to do. I'm going to go in, I've had a lot of people talk to me about hernias, and so I'm going to go in there and add that to it. But there's no reason you can't add it and just intend, but I would certainly use those both.
And intestinal,
Yeah, the candida one is for intestinal support as well.
and what about for the muscles? Because it's weak abdominal muscles.
And use the one for the muscles.
Oh, you can do whatever you want.
Whatever, if you have it's good to just look at the table of contents sometimes. And those glyphs are tools. Tools only work when you use them. They don't work sitting on the shelf. Just sit there, just go ahead and even make a copy of that table of contents and look at it and think about it, because they are powerful tools. Powerful tools, absolutely.
Remember I told you I put the glyphs around my picture?
Right?
I counted them, I put 52 glyphs.
Well, now this one woman, she said she had a cow, a goat that had a bad sore at one of its teats. It was really, and it was causing blood in the milk, and the goat would kick her when she tried to milk it. And she said she just put the glyph for cellular repair in the barn there, a ways away, and she said in 2 days it was healed. She just intended the energy go over to the. So remember, you have the power. We all have the power with our minds, and you can make it work. We don't even need glyphs but the glyphs give us focus. You see, it gives us something to focus on. I mean, it would be hard with me, my gallbladder thing, if I didn't have those glyphs, to just trying to tell it.
You have a lot of specific diseases for plants, like I know you have the hemlock, one for the hemlock trees. Is there any, like funguses, and you don't know what kind of, for
Yes, there's a new one out for another, there was some trees in Hawaii that were dying. And so we created another glyph. I have some more glyphs that I'm working on.
So it would be for just a general, what?
And what we're going to do, what we do is add the name in that you wanted to work with. It's for a particular. We designed it for a particular tree. But I said, let's do this where we can just add in what we want. Okay.
So can you add in like whatever fungus it is?
Or even take one that you have, like the one for the locust is a fungus. So just go ahead and tell it what you wanted to say. Just go ahead and do it. And I lost all my large hemlocks. I have over 100 acres of land. I have about 160.
So your glyphs didn't.
And it took me so long to figure it out that I lost the big ones. But all my young ones are free of disease. All the young ones are free of disease. So I thought, well, okay, that's something. But I had to just accept the fact.
Glyphs on the, how do you do that?
When I programmed the glyph, I programmed that the energy would spread throughout. And so it just has. Even on the neighbor's land, it's just all the new ones are full. And you're all invited to come up there sometime. We got 58 acres of land that belongs to the nonprofit, and my desire is, my thought is that it will be a center for special children sometime. And I just believe that it will all come together. And, I've got a board vacancy if anybody feels like, hey, this sounds like there's something, you know, cause we are right now, all the profits from the books go, we're supporting an orphanage, a couple orphanages in Nepal. And also in Nepal, these other countries, some of them are pitiful. Nepal, school is not free. If you have money, your kids go to school. You can send them to school. You pay for it. If you don't have money, no school. That's it. No, and it's it reinforces separation of the rich and the poor. And so we now have 6 teachers we've hired for remote villages so that the children can have an education in